Hey, welcome to the 2 Hour Grind. I'm Nate, and today I'm going to be rocking and rolling on some character design, so I'm going to do a little background and a couple things. First, talk a little bit about my process, how I create, what I'm creating, and then jump into the nitty-gritty, the drawing, the pencils. That's where I'm going to start, and then go from pencils into maybe inks today. Sometimes it takes me 2 hours just to do the pencil portion, and then the inks and colors might come at a later video. But today's video, I'm going to try my best to get through as much of it as I can. I am trying a new setup, so hopefully we're not lagging and this camera is alright. It's not quite as good as the camera I've been using previously on my streams, but it'll work. So I've been working on a couple different projects, and one of them is, excuse me, kind of a D&D, Dungeons & Dragons style character designs. I'm not going to roll with those, but I'm going to show a couple of the recent pieces that I've done on my live stream, and then from there jump into what I'm going to be working on. So just go through some of them. All these are going to be available on my YouTube, or YouTube and eBay. On my eBay, I'll be throwing some of these up, so if anybody's interested in any of these sketches, go check it out. Find them. So I don't know exactly who I'm going to be rocking and rolling and drawing on today, but I am going to do a little bit of process first and then go from there. I like to jump around a lot. The other projects besides the Dungeons & Dragons style campaign stuff is the Cyberpunk monsters that I've been working on. I think this is where I'm going to be leading today. So far, I've only really done a vampire, and she is not a final character design. She was like the first one that kind of came about by accident, and I kind of want to still tweak it and change things up and see what I can do. The creature was second, and he just goes by creature. He doesn't actually have the in front of his name, but so second dude, the second character in the monsters, the cyberpunk monsters that I'm going to be working on. And then just some other cool pencil sketches and things. And for my most recent stream, I did this Hawk girl, kind of a mix of the movie and her like classic costume, little combination. Alright, so first things first, some sloppy paper. When you're setting up characters and character designs, one of the things that you want to do is, of course, make them kind of noticeable or easily recognizable. Easily recognizable starts with the silhouette, right? That outline, that outside shape of the actual character. Speaking of shapes, how I set up characters and how I draw a lot of times is basic shapes, right? I could do a little, demo of like what shapes, like circles become spheres and, rectangles become cylinders or cubes or whatever you want to call it. However you want to make them or how you want to draw kind of leads into it. I don't have much of an idea yet, but I'm just going to kind of talk through it and roll and see what happens and let the paper or, the stream of consciousness, maybe, is kind of how I'm going to flow today. See what happens and what I can come up with. In the monsters, there are quite a few, right? You got Phantom, you got Frankenstein monster, you've got Dracula, you've got some of those that are all in the public domain, right? And Frankenstein, as long as you don't use the bolts on the neck, that's universal, that's copyright still, trademarked, copyrighted, whatever. So there's some of them that you can touch on and draw on, some of them that you can't. The Creature of the Black Lagoon, for instance, you really can't. My style is just based on a fishman, not really based on him so much, but we'll see what we do. Alright, so I'm not sure which one I want to roll with next. I do kind of want to do Invisible Man, done? No. The Mummy, maybe. Mummies, anybody could draw a mummy. And Frankenstein, the monster, not Frankenstein, but Frankenstein's monster. However, like anything, I want to like create it in its own way and create it and give my own little like taste, little touch to that design. So let's see what we got. I want to go with, it's going to be kind of cyberpunky in a way. I kind of want a female character. And we'll see what happens. Now, usually sometimes I'll draw just starting with, you know, ovals for the head, right? Ovals everywhere. You can throw down anything. I can just kind of scribble, kind of put things down on the paper. One of the things I might not talk about too often is when I am actually like kind of finalizing lines is that line of beauty. So it's kind of an S curve to every line. It is no longer just like a straight line, right? Like it becomes more interesting. It becomes that to the next, you know, you're taking it to the next step, kind of. More interesting to look at. And one of the other things, like I just said a minute ago, is that silhouette of the character. You want to have like a really recognizable silhouette. You can Google, you know, character silhouettes and like go through and you could be like, oh, that one's this, because they're easily recognizable, right? So that's kind of what you want to do when you're designing your own characters, and that's kind of what I'm going to try to do with this one. We'll see how it goes. You know, like, this is live drawing. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out until the very end, and, you know, we'll see what happens. So I will start just kind of head. Now with character designs, I try to get the whole body filled into the paper, right? I kind of want that whole thing. Kind of placed in. So I'm going to just start like basic shapes, basic like movement, you know, whatever it might be. Just trying my best to like Cyberpunk monster realm. All right, and that's like, it's going to be fun. It's like what I'm doing, it's like, it's a team for my comic book called Wolfsbane, which I've been doing for a little while now. I've done a couple different like, you know, bad guy teams, and this one's like the monsters, and you know, that's kind of where it's going. Now, I like to use that, you know, that line of beauty like I just was talking about a little bit for like the spine, right? And that kind of is like one of the basic things that I'll, you know, line up how the body is. I'll use kind of an eye as well in there, like the letter I. You want it to be more of like a greater than or less than sign, right? With those two lines. And that's your shoulders and the hips of the character to kind of make that pose a little bit more dynamic than just like standing straight and being kind of boring, right? So I'll tweak the shoulders a little bit, I'll do the hips a little bit, and that's kind of, you know, a little bit basic, but that's kind of what I'll start with. So a little bit of spine, a little bit of those. I do, like I said, want to try to get the whole body on here, which I personally, I like to work a little bit bigger sometimes, and when you're working on like 8.5 by 11 paper, it kind of can get cut off. And sometimes what happens when you're drawing, like, you know, you don't want to cut somebody's like feet off only, right? And it goes down to their ankles, and that's going to kind of look weird, you know? So even on the recent one, when I was doing the creature, even he kind of went down too far, and the way I kind of tried to save it was just have him walking in some water, right? I do want to get her feet on the ground, so it is going to be a female character. I don't know which one I want to roll with yet. I'll start to flesh out after I kind of put those other things in, just those basic shapes, right? And I'm really sketchy the way I work, and it's definitely not the right way. It's not my way. There's so many different ways you can draw and start your characters, right? And you can look them up, and, you know, the Marvel way, and just squares and rectangles, and just, you know, put them where you want them to go, cylinders, whatever it might be. And I still kind of use that style too, but I'm kind of like very sketchy, very scribbly. I like to use circles, of course, for hips, for elbows, for shoulders, because that way, wherever your arm might go, you know, it's circular, right? So, like, it can attach any which way, and that kind of forms that back side of the cylinder, which would be part of the arm. So I'm not really sure where I'm going yet. I'm just going to start drawing, and like I said, I'll try to talk through the steps as I go. Hopefully it's a little bit beneficial at some point, and some of these tips are a little bit useful. So So, and I mean, I could do a whole day of just like, here's how you could set up different ways how to set up characters, right? Like there's triangles, you could do a triangle just the same way I just did it, and top of the triangle on each one of these, and it comes up to the neck and goes down, and then the same way going down this way, kind of put the two triangles that overlap, and that would be like a way you can set up a body too. There's so many different ways to do things, and I've learned from a lot of different artists over my years, and you know, it's cool to see how other artists work all the time, and it's one of the things I like to do a lot is like check out how other artists set up their characters and how they sketch. So this is going to be how I do it. And thank you guys for stopping by and checking us out. I do appreciate it. All the watches. Let's see what we can do. Alright, oval shape head, of course, kind of. I don't really have a pose, don't really have anything yet. I'm just kind of feeling it out. Line of beauty for the spine. Now, because it is a character design and I want that silhouette to be kind of unique, this might be a little bit more of a basic pose. It's not going to be a super battle pose because I'm trying to still feel out like how the character is going to look and what kind of clothing, what kind of materials, what kind of things are going on in that character or in this universe that I'm trying to design, right? So, Cyberpunk-esque team that is a bunch of villains based on monsters. So you're going to get like a wolf something eventually, which I do like drawing Wolfman, and that was, you know, kind of up the line of what I did previously on my stream with a kind of a cool, gosh, it was a sorcerer. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they, you know, not what I'm doing today, but sorry. Going off track all the time, something I do a little bit, and I apologize if I get off on a tangent and go some other direction and you're like, where did that come from? That's just me. My brain jumps around. I will try to do like quick gestures and things too when I'm drawing. One of the, you know, like I said earlier, I've learned from a bunch of artists over my years and went, you know, many teachers in art school and things like that. And 30 seconds to draw a pose, you know, and you get really fast, and that's the goal, is like get as much information as you can on the paper and go kind of quick. And that's one of the things I do. So if I go too fast and anybody has any questions about any of the techniques that I'm using or anything like that, please let me know. You know, hit me up in those comments. I misplaced my Medusa sketch. I remember I started one for Medusa too, which is going to be pretty rad. So they're going to be, you know, a little team. Villains. They might not be recurring for too long in the comic, no spoilers, but you know, you might see them a little bit. Who knows? Not until like the third or fourth arc, probably, because I'm still on arc 1 and the main villain is introduced, and you kind of get a little bit of that backstory and what's going on in the actual city of Wolfsbane and meeting all the characters. So background side characters, you might see them pop up in the background, you might see them in there, but Alright, so scribbling. One of the other things I do a lot, and it might be a little bit weird to some of you guys when you watch it, and if you've seen like any of my other streams, like especially like the Hawk Girl one, she started off way different than what ended up being the, you know, the final. Same thing with the vampire cyberpunk girl that I did the one day. It started off as a samurai chick, and then, you know, it morphs, and like I kind of have that, like, that's one of the things I like about art, or like about creating art, is that process and that fluidity of it, right? Like, it can flow. It doesn't, there's no, like, it has to stay that way, you know? It does suck when you've been working on something for like 8 hours and then you're like, I hate it, you know? But besides that, it's nice to have that, like, fluid, the, like, you can change anything at any time, and even from a final to the next time you draw that character, so many things can change. Artists' interpretations of other characters also, you know, like, how many times have you seen, like, Batman being, excuse me, being drawn, and, like, every time his character, his, like, the suit changes slightly, you know, and it's pretty rad how you can do that in art. Let's see if I can situate myself a little bit differently while I am trying to get down on this. All right. I'm definitely somebody that will draw the same, you know, design the character 4 or 5 times before I'm, like, happy with the design. Even when I, even some of my comics, I'll purposely, like, destroy somebody's suit so they have to get a new one, right? When I'm drawing them, and, like, if you've read any of them, not that you guys have, but like in the Patrol, for instance, I didn't really care for his jacket at first, and I designed it and I drew so many pages. I'm like, well, guess what? It's gonna get ripped off and destroyed by the monster when he's fighting, and then he has to get a new gear so I could change up designs, you know. And it's a cool way to, like, segue, or, like, again, show that, like, art, you can change things up and kind of make it somewhat your own taste, your own flavor, whatever it might be. So the comic Wolfsbane is all about the city of Wolfsbane, and it's basically follows 2 cops that will eventually become supers. They don't start off as super or superheroes, or, you know, super powered at all. They kind of, like, eventually grow as characters into those roles. But it's futuristic, somewhat futuristic, you know, not too distant future. So technology's there, and new, you know, further along than where we are in our world, but not to the point they're like flying ships and aliens and all kinds of crazy stuff like that, but kind of grounded in some ways. However, I like the cybernetic implants and, you know, bringing kind of that feel into it. Still don't know how I feel about this new camera. It's just not quite as clear as like when I was. I know it's weird, but it's like my iPhone camera was so good, but I just kept getting lag, and I think it's not lagging today though, which is a good thing. So hopefully I'll get a full stream, and it won't be like broken down into like 30 minute with no start and stops. Getting way too close to the bottom again, and that's it's one of those things that I kind of have trouble with. I don't know about you guys at home, but sometimes, you know, it's just I draw them too big, and I'm like, I want them all to fit. I want the whole body to fit. And what's the next best thing? Erase. Try again. I also do like to work on grayscale paper, so if you're wondering, this is a kind of like a cool gray. The reason I like to use the cool gray is when I go back over it with the highlights when I'm adding color later on, which it'll be a few hours, but once I start adding those colors and adding that white, it'll really like pop areas forward and like set areas back. And you know, when you smear with the side of your hand, it kind of will like darken some of the areas, which is nice, and then you get like a nice gradual value change throughout. Like, I try not to fight against things. I try to incorporate, you know, because things just happen when you're creative art, when you're drawing. One of the other things that's a little bit tough that occurs is when you're drawing, you kind of want to you know, be looking at it so it's flat. And when I set it down, I'm kind of looking at it where it's kind of on an angle. So as I draw and I look at the screen, because this hopefully is showing it as it's flat, I can see like proportions look a little bit weird, but when you're looking at it, you know, on your angle, it might look a little bit better. So that's something, as you know, especially as an artist that's been doing it for a while, I kind of want to bring it up and have that like angle, or I got to just fix myself, so I'm kind of hunching over top of it so I can see it a little bit more on that scale, if that makes sense. It's not quite working the way I want. I keep going too big. do, however, I think I'm going to go with Phantom. So I have Creature, I've got Vampire, I'm going to go Phantom. You're going to get Frankenstein Monster, might just call her Monster, or him Monster. Alright, let's go. What it is. I am not in the right position today. I feel like I'm too far away from it. The art. Alright. the places that you'll kind of see that line of beauty is like in the clavicle bone or the collarbone, you know. It's that like nice curve, kind of the S curve. Again, I don't know if I'll be able to fit a whole body on here. I might end up making her too big every single time. Getting frustrated by it, but I'll get it. Part of live drawing, I guess. Sometimes I like to start with the sketch already drawn, and this is why, because it might take me an hour and a half, 2 hours of the whole 2-hour grind just to do the pencils. That's alright. It's all about that prep. I need to go check on my dog. That was a crazy noise. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I just scribbles, and it's the main way I work, right? Is a lot of scribbles, a lot of like draw it, erase it, draw it, erase it, draw it, erase it, and that's just my pencils, and probably why it takes me a long time to finish a comic issue, but this is kind of how I work. At this point, I want to start like feeling out the forms, right? So no longer are they just shapes, right? You want to make it feel like it's three-dimensional. So in order to do that, you want to take those, you know, uh, ovals or rectangles, whatever you want to call them, and try to start to make them feel like they're cylinders or like curved, round. There is muscle mass, of course, that you have to take into account once you start to learn anatomy. And those curved lines that you use really are what's going to put things in the foreground, middle ground, like push things forward, push things back. Sorry, no foreground, middle ground, but push things forward, bring things forward, push things back. It's all about those directional lines. Directional lines are extremely important, especially going in the correct direction will really kind of set some things. Set them up, set them off, set it off. Start to like kind of really add some weight to it. Alright, so Phantom, she's getting there. I almost got a pose. I know this took the longest of everything, right? Now it's all about kind of finding her silhouette and what her actual silhouette should look like. Like what areas are important to show. So like if they're all lined up and dark and there's light behind them all and they're all lined up on the street, whatever it might be, maybe it's a comic cover, you can tell it's that's that's who, and you can like kind of tell who they all are supposed to be. Sorry if this gets a little repetitive from the things that I say, but so those curved lines, I know it's kind of hard to even see what I'm doing. So I got creature, this will be Phantom. Vampire needs some changes. Werewolf monster. Maybe invisible. It is like kind of cyberpunky technology, so there could be a cloaking device when I get to that character where they could go invisible, why not? I am a fan of like half jackets. I don't know why. So she's getting a half jacket. She'll get a nice collar, Her head, mask, face, it's gonna have a couple lines. It's cyber, right? So she's gonna have a strip up, and then kind of goes over her nose and around. If you think about the Phantom of the Opera, his actual mask, it's only like that half kind of mask on the one side, right? So it's gonna kind of mimic that with the cybernetic half of her head. On that side too, she'll have like the shaved head, and then she's gonna have like the big hair on the other half. one of the things that happens when it's like a ton of lines, right? And the way I scribble, they kind of can become like parts of their outfit, you know, like the highlight, the lights, the threading, the cybernetic parts, right? Because that's what I'm going for, is that cybernetic style, that cybernetic, um, cyberpunk esque. This leg isn't quite right, but it's getting there. So I'm smearing it on purpose. It's just one of the things I like to do. Kind of is, when you're adding value later on, and I'm adding that color later on, I like to have that little bit of like back value already placed in there. So when I erase things, it'll pop forward, and then when I add the highlight, it's really going to bring things out, right? So it's just like adding another layer of value. So I really wanted her to feel like she's standing in the paper, on the paper, right? Like I really wanted to get her on there, so I kind of got the pose. Finally, I know it's coming up on 1 hour into the 2 hour grind, and I just finally hit the pose, right? Now it's kind of flesh out and feel out the clothing and all those things. Try to really make her design interesting enough that I want to use it in the actual comic when it comes out. All right, now, again, silhouette. How do you make it unique enough that she will stand out against a lot of other female characters? Especially like when it's your own style, it's kind of hard because you draw, very similarly in everything that you kind of do, right? And I have like the three basic body styles that you learn how to draw. You got your big dude, and then like the medium kind of like big dude, and then like the skinny dude. Same thing with girls, and kind of get those 3 different. I guess there could be 4 or 5. I don't know. There's a ton. There's a ton of them, but you can kind of like come up with your own and kind of feel them out. So now I gotta figure that part out. And basically, her clothes. And any cyberpunk actual influence on this character, right? She might not have as much as some of the others. So like, in the old vanilla opera, swords. I don't know what kind of. I guess you could have a sword. It also says a lasso. What is this? Like a noose. So she rocks a noose, like strangles people with a noose. You can kind of roll with that. That almost fits her pose without me doing too much. She can also have a sword, though. I think she should have a sword. You need a sword. Why not? I think we got like powered claws. We got vampire chick with cannon arm. I don't know what else I would do. it's just kind of feeling out the character now. This can take a little while, you know. Trial and error as well when you're designing characters. Don't be scared of just like erasing it. You watched, if you caught any of this video, the whole first hour was me just erasing everything I did. Oh, there's the Medusa. So Medusa will be one as well. The hero or leader of the team. I guess he's not really the hero. Killvass. Main character. Forearm dude. Chainsaw. Old school like revolver. So vampire, I like it, but it's not. It was just like the first of these that kind of led the idea, right? So I want to figure that out. Creature one more time, so he's gonna be one of the team. You're gonna have a Medusa. And you're gonna have Phantom. Notice the reconnecting right there, so I guess new camera doesn't really save all the reconnecting. I don't know if it's been doing it often. That's the first time I noticed it, an hour and 20 minutes in, so hopefully it's alright. I don't know. Alright, so making some progress. She's coming along. Now, like, for instance, right here, when I wanted to, like, feel like it's coming out at you, use those curved lines, right? Those lines that go around the form. You want to make it feel like it's three-dimensional, right? So, it's flat paper. How do you do that? You make the lines go around the form and make sure they kind of feel like they're, overlapping. So I wanted to go behind the forearm, make sure the forearm's kind of overlapping, coming down in front of it. I want to make the jacket feel like it's actually on the arm, so that's got to, kind of go around and circle the arm. Her anatomy might not be exact, might not be correct. You know, the sketch kind of worked. Might be areas that I want to go back in and fix eventually, but for now, I always feel like this leg needs to slide back. Still gonna have that same kind of pose, just I think I want to slide it. Just a slightly bigger stance. they still have buckles in Cyberpunk world? I don't know. But in mine, sure. We're buckling. Couple buckles at the bottom of her jacket. So basically like 2 belts wrapping around. She's also gonna have like the same 2 on her, on her glove, but her glove isn't really gonna be a glove. That one hand's gonna have a glove. The other hand's gonna be that cyberpunk world. Who knows? Not really world, sorry, but cyberpunk team. Alright, villain team. Starting to fit into the world, I hope. But everybody else, can't really see them all. Too many, but I'll be right back. Need to refill my drink. Let's keep going. So we got Creature. We've got Medusa, who still needs to be finalized. I sketched her out the one day and did not finish her, so I'll be coming back working on her one day soon. Vampire, she still needs to be changed, fixed up a little bit. Killvass, the main dude. And then Phantom. course, when you're hitting the ground, horizontal lines, that's how I do it. Might not be the right way all the time, but vertical will flatten it out and it won't look right. So always stick to horizontal lines when you're doing, ground. I do it with ceilings and the ground. Any walls, though, I'll do the vertical lines only because you want it to feel like it's going up. Those vertical. So she's getting pretty close. And I'm kind of digging the character design overall. Kind of weird that she has a noose, though. I don't know. I don't know if I'll stick to it. Right? I gave her the sword, Cyberpunk sword. I'll have to vibro whatever. All right, coming up on the 2 hours of the 2-hour grind, I've got Phantom, the next of the Cyberpunk monster crew. She's not very monstrous, but so half of her face is gonna be like that cybernetic piece. It's kind of gonna look Phantom of the Opera-esque with the white, kind of. We'll see how it works, but she's kind of got that look, that vibe going on. That's kind of what I was going for. I want to get a couple more of these characters designed. Not sure if they're all going to make it into the comic book eventually, right? But I do this is one of my favorite things to do, is design characters. So, a couple more minutes of just drawing. What time is it? We're going on 5:17. I might extend this from the 2-hour grind, be like a 2.5-hour grind. And I've talked about curved lines going around the form, so depending on how things are, right, especially sleeves, you think about that wrap, how it wraps around the wrist and things, and where it is in space. Her arm is going back. I want her pulling, like she's pulling the actual. So I'm trying to figure out how exactly. Should her hand be like she's gonna lasso something, right? Swing it around, lasso. This sleeve will be down, the other sleeve is up. I mean, overall, I know it's a little bit of a basic sketch. So 2 hours in, 2 hour grind. That's what it's called. Hold myself accountable, making sure I'm drawing every day, right? Or at least a couple days a week besides my normal drawing. I draw quite often, but this is kind of what the 2 hour grind is all about. Character design. Phantom. I mean, she needs some changes, needs some fixes. There's areas that I really like. Anatomy might not be right. Her head is, I think I got to shift her head a little bit. Things like that. But the main thing that I was trying to do today was come up with her actual design. And I think I kind of got that. Her boots kind of need some kind of something. I was almost going to do like the swashbuckling boots with like the fold down and things, and ended up being just cropping her pants, and then her boots will just be solid black, probably going up maybe like a leather-esque or something. I don't know. It is Cyberpunk world. Short jacket, belts, 2 belts, one that hooks across the chest, 2 on her sleeve, 2 on her gauntlet. Her one hand is going to be the cybernetic hand. It's going to actually charge up that. I know she's throwing around. What was it called? Something silly. Punjab lasso. Punjab lasso? Punjab lasso? I don't know. So that is the Phantom of the Opera's weapon that he used, and that's kind of where this comes from, right? It's based on Phantom. So the monster crew, the monster gang. I've got a couple different gangs that I've worked on. Another one was pretty fun, was called the Oz Gang, and I'll show you that one day. But you gotta read the books, guys. You gotta buy those comics when they come out. So, anyway, she's got pencils done. I think I'm gonna probably throw some color on her. Ink her out, throw some color on it. She might be a little bit more basic. However, she's gonna F shit up when she actually gets in the comic. Alright, and one of the little things I like to do for my followers, if anybody's out there watching, this is the time, right now, 2:07:13. Claim it, alright? I'm going to do a free sketch for somebody out there. If you claim it, I will send it to you for free. It'll be streamed, live streamed, full color, sketch coming to you. But you got to claim it. You got to put it in the comments down below. Be the first one to claim it because I'm only doing one. You also, again, have to be in the US. I didn't specify that before, and I actually had to send one overseas, and that's a little bit pricey, especially with the tariffs and things. So be careful about that. But besides that, if you're interested and you want a free sketch from me, hit me up. Let me know. Claim it. This is the only time. If you get it down there and you're the first one to comment it that you heard it from me first, get it. So once again, we've got Phantom. We're going for the Monster Gang, ran by Killvas, the four-arm gunslinger, and he rocks a chainsaw. I mean, cool. It's a cybernetic chainsaw. It's going to be a lightning blade. Pretty dope. We've got Vampire, Medusa coming up. I got to ink her and color her as well, so she'll be popping up on one of those streams where I just, I've already drawn something and I'm like ready to go. And then you got Creature as the last one. A few more examples in case you're wondering what the other sketches will look like. If you do claim it, Hawk Girl from one of my previous streams. I watched Alien Earth, of course. You got some Alien in there. Little Dino Crisis back from October. There was Inktober I did. Little Neon Genesis Evangelion. Tifa, not my favorite. Gotta fix her mouth still, but nobody needs to know that. Some Ninja High School. That one was kind of fun. I just, for some reason, even though it's really basic, the water just really worked. It's cool. Little Chun-Li action. And I think that's about it. Oh. Witherfang. This one's coming from a D&D style campaign that's coming up soon. I get to do the art for the art book for it, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm doing all the character designs and things, so that one's pretty rad too. Anyway, claim it if you heard it, and you're the first one to do it. It's yours. I will send it to you. You just got to follow me kind of on Instagram or something and message me and be like, hey, claim it in the comments below, and then hit me up on Insta or whatever. It is the same across the board. That GCP Comics, hit me up, find us, and claim it if you want it. It's yours. All right. Thanks for checking us out. I'm going to be back with more of the Monster Gang coming up soon on my next streams. So, finishing her up. She needs some ink. She needs some color. That's going to be the next 2-hour grind. Probably on Friday is my schedule. As long as my schedule allows it to happen on Friday, I think that's when it's going to go down. So, thanks again for checking us out. This was the 2-hour grind. I'm Nate. And yeah, hit me up. Let me know anything, any questions about anything. Hit me up in the comments right down below. Any techniques or anything like that. You know, all those fun things. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Hit that subscribe button for me. Hit that like button for me. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Much, much appreciated. Once again, I'm Nate. This was the 2-hour grind, and I'll catch you on the next grind.